I'm Dan Gelber, and I'm a mayor of Miami Beach. But when you run for office, all you do is reach out, hopefully, to new people. It helps, number one, it's the only way to get elected, and number two, it really does prepare you for the job you're assuming, because nobody walks into an office, a trust, with all the answers. And a good public servant is somebody who is embracing of other people's ideas, not caring where they come from, but caring whether they're good or not. So I reach out to a lot of people, whether they supported me or not. Well, the person I always reach out to is my father.
Okay.
He is 98 years old. He has a wealth of experience. He had this job in the 90s, so he was mayor, but he also has a clarity that comes with age and experience that I think is terrific. There's almost so many, I couldn't pick a single person. When I was not in City Hall, I was not an elected official here. I had been in the legislature years ago where I represented the city, but I'd never been in local government. So to a lot of the groups and stakeholders, I'm sort of a new product.
Okay.
So I'm reaching out to every group I can, whether every community of interest in the city, whether it's commercial, civic, religious, whatever it is. I feel like if I'm their mayor, they ought to have access to me. There's a lot of local businesses in our community, but there's sort of an overriding issue, which is an issue of tourism. Mm-hmm. We are a residential community. We also happen to be the tip of the arrow when it comes to our tourism market. We have a regional impact, if not a statewide impact, because we probably are the most well-known destination in the state. Mm-hmm. So I understand that there's that obligation, but you have to weigh that against the needs of residents to have a community they can live in, and I think that's always the tricky part. So I reach out to the business community that serves Miami Beach, but also that serves the visitors that come here. Okay. The great news about Miami Beach is it's a brand that has existed for decades. Okay. I was born here and lived here my whole life. It's the only home I've ever known. And the Miami Beach brand is something that has been around before I was here and will be around long after I leave. It evolves somewhat, but we have a pretty sophisticated government here. We have members of our community that sort of project out what our brand is. And it does evolve and it does change and it does need to be both protected and cared for. And I think, look, Miami Beach is a wonderful destination. It's also a wonderful place to live. It is not any town USA. It has cultural elements, obviously environmental elements like the beautiful weather and beaches. And it has also a wonderful community here. And you have to sort of figure out how you balance all those things. And that's what people have to know about our city, that we're a special place. I don't know if you've ever seen the Dos Equis commercial, the most interesting man in the world. Well, I think we're the most interesting city in the world. And I think we want to keep it that way, but we want to make sure that our virtues always prevail over sort of the challenges that come with being so interesting. Well, like any city, we have to make sure we're safe. Okay. And when you go from 95,000 people to 200,000 or 300,000 people in a weekend, there are a lot of capacity challenges. So we have a wonderful police force, but they constantly have to evolve to deal with the challenges that we're facing. I think we always have to, we can't rest on our laurels. Mm-hmm. So I always think we have to be thinking about who we are and how we're going to project that out. I think in that regard, we have to establish ourselves really as an international cultural destination. I think we've already started to do that, Art Basel and a lot of things like the New World and Faena and Collins Park and the Bass Museum, and some of the hotels, frankly, have, like the W and the Sagamore, have incredible art exhibits available for people. So I want us to be a cultural destination, but you've got to really got to brand that, and I'd like us to. I think our sea level rise and our street level raising project is a challenge because it is very disruptive and it's very costly. So I want to make sure we do it the right way, and I believe we will, but we will only do it the right way if we are attentive to the process and are constantly challenging our initial assumptions to make sure we're getting it right. Well, each one is a different challenge. With the sea level rise, I want to, I mean, most of your elected officials don't have an expertise in the subspecialties like engineering and you know, the chemistry and forensics of what's going on here. They're lay people, like I am. I'm a lawyer. I'm not an engineer. So I'd like to make sure we have access to experts who will challenge our path to make sure we're doing it the right way. That's how I would deal with that process. The goal, for instance, of public safety, I just would simply ask our manager and our chief to constantly evaluate what they're doing to make sure that it's addressing tomorrow's challenges and not yesterday's. And I think they instinctively do that, but it's up to political leadership to constantly let them know that more must always be done, even though I think they understand that instinctively. The cultural things, I think the city is never going to be the genesis of our cultural evolution. That's going to come from the private sector. It's going to come from people who have a love, an interest, and are willing to invest in the kinds of things that do that. But the city can create a sense that this is what we want. We can help organize it. We can invest in it as well through creation of venues like the New World Symphony, like the band shell in North Beach, the kinds of places that are accommodating and embracing of cultural interactions. So I want to see that happen, and I think we're excited about that because I believe that Miami Beach's future is really going to be as a cultural destination. It brings a wonderful brand of tourists, first of all, but secondly, it provides amazing elements for our residents who will be able to partake in the same kind of enrichment that a visitor might. And that's really what you want in a city like ours. You want it to be accommodating to visitors and to residents, and there are some things that accommodate both.